Well, those ceremonies sometimes involve the sharing of animal blood to gain power, they say. But cult members believe their strength really comes from...
Duck, it's Chuck. Norris, that is, raring to go in this gung-ho, gun-toting, action-packed prequel, Missing in Action 2, The Beginning.
Bizarre encounters. Call and hear real people as they come face to face with. If you only make one phone call in your life, make it to Bizarre Encounters.
Hey guys, it's me again, Eric here at Mountaintop 9, and in this video, I want to talk a little bit about the director Jim VanBebber, and specifically, I want to talk about some of the stuff that is on this release from Arrow Video. This is a release they did on Blu-ray of the classic Deadbeat at Dawn. And on here you also get short films from Jim VanBebber. So I'm going to be focusing on talking about my memories of his work growing up when I was first exposed to his work. This video I'm not going to be talking about the Manson family. That will be for a different video at a different time. But let's start off by taking a trip down memory lane, and I'm going to tell you about the first time I saw this great director's work. It was back in the mid-90s, and a good friend of mine, he had a VHS tape that had Deadbeat at Dawn on it, My Sweet Satan, and Roadkill, The Last Days of John Martin. And anyway, when I went over to his house, and we would always watch horror films, Lucio Fulci films, gore films, just you name it. We were always listening to death metal and just watching crazy horror, just whatever horror we could find, and the bloodier, the gorier, the nastier, the better. And I don't want to get off on too much of a tangent, guys, but I do want to point out that in addition to going to the video store and picking out 2 or 3 cool horror flicks and enjoying the movies, another big part of those sleepovers is when we would, get a nice pizza pie to eat. Isn't that a great memory, ordering a nice sloppy pizza with good melted cheese and some fine sauce? We would gather around the good stuff like you wouldn't fucking believe, my friends. We'd order us a nice big large Papa John's pizza with some of that garlic butter dip. You guys like that shit? Like, I remember one time my friend's dad making something called midnight chicken. Midnight chicken, he called it. I said, what the fuck is this dish called? And he said, it's called midnight chicken. Just shut up and eat the shit. But anyway, midnight chicken was this stuff where you had a nice plate filled with rice. And then he took the fucking rice and he put like sweet and sour, some nice cuts of pineapple on there, and then some savory. And I'm talking tender, melt in your mouth slices of chicken mixed in with the rice and with the sauce and all this shit. He called it midnight fucking chicken. And anyway, I remember going over to his house one night, and, we were going to watch stuff like we always did, and he told me how he had this movie called My Sweet Satan. And so, a title like that, My Sweet Satan, that's going to pique your interest when you are a teenager who loves listening to metal, loves horror films. So you hear a title like My Sweet Satan, that sounds pretty just extreme on its own. The plot is based on, the true life case of Ricky Casso, all right? And in Jim VanBebber's short, in My Sweet Satan, he plays this character. When you see him on screen, he does a remarkable job in the acting in this story. You really believe that he's this drugged out teenager that's into metal music and that he's really this, this Satanist character. And the first time you see him walking on the screen, that shot where he's walking in front of this big flag in the background, he just looks like a badass as he comes walking into the frame. The thing about My Sweet Satan is it never has a moment where it lets up. This is the thing that I really love about Jim VanBebber's work. There is a frenetic energy to his work, and his stuff is alive. That's the thing I really want to point out about Jim VanBebber's work, is that his stuff is alive. There's a heart beating in there, and it's gritty, and it's real. And even as a kid, the first time I saw My Sweet Satan and his other stuff, I was like, man, this stuff is uncompromising. It punches you in the face. And My Sweet Satan, the first time I saw it, like I said, with all of VanBebber's work, there is a frantic energy. It's uncompromising, and it feels real. Think about the first time, maybe for you, I know certainly for me, the first time I watched something like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original, Tobe Hooper's Texas Chainsaw Massacre, it felt like a documentary to me. The realism just clobbered me over the face. It was the same way watching VanBebber's stuff for the first time. You are hooked every step of the way. What it kind of reminds me of, sometimes I've thought this before, okay? When I'm watching a movie like Goodfellas, for instance. When you watch a movie like Goodfellas, have you ever noticed that you're just locked in from the time the movie starts all the way to the conclusion of it? It just keeps you riveted as it goes from each set piece. One set piece after another, just keeping you engaged, keeping you enthralled. And then every once in a while, you're just pummeled over the head by some scene of really like repellent, extreme violence, you know? Like think of the different scenes in Goodfellas where all of a sudden there's just blood going everywhere, someone's getting beat, someone's getting stabbed, someone's getting shot, and that kind of stuff is just put in there, and it has a frenetic energy to it. Well, Jim VanBebber's work is very much the same way, but even rawer. It's much more raw. It's much more dirty. And the first time I saw My Sweet Satan, that's what hit me about it, and still hits me to this day. Watching his stuff to this day, it still hits me the same way. When they get to that scene where they're around the campfire out in the woods, the main character, when he's about to kill this kid. Just the way he's stabbing this character, and then you see the eyeball get cut out, and then that foot stomping down on the head, crushing the skull. These are effects, all right? What's great about these effects is they're not this lame-brained CGI bullshit. It's not some weak-ass namby-pamby stuff. It's very uncompromising the way this stuff is shot, and it looks very crude. And I say that in the best possible way because there's like a vulgarity to this violence, you know what I mean? Because it's so crude and in your face. And it's really, his stuff is not for the squeamish. When you watch a scene like that, it hits you really hard. And the tension that builds up in My Sweet Satan as it goes on. In addition to the violence and just the way this looks, how gritty it looks, there's also a tension that builds throughout My Sweet Satan. And the runtime of this short film is only like 19 minutes. And it is over before you know it. That's the sad thing about it. I wish that it were longer, because you start the thing, you hit play, and before you know it, you're at the conclusion, and it just keeps you riveted the whole way. And there's good lighting in this. The outdoor scenes at the end, okay, when the Ricky character is about to murder the other kid, the lighting is really cool because you've got some red lighting in the foreground. It makes things look more menacing and foreboding. You know something really bad's about to go down. And then in the background, it's just got that blue forest lighting. So there's great care taken to the lighting as well. When I saw My Sweet Satan for the first time as a kid, I just loved it. I absolutely loved it. And then the other thing I loved, though, was seeing Roadkill, The Last Days of John Martin. I will tell you what, guys, it is such a gruesome little short horror film, and it is everything that a cannibal killer horror film should be, and then some. I'm going to go back to the well again and talk about Texas Chainsaw for a minute. I remember when I was a kid, the first time I saw Texas Chainsaw Massacre, it blew my mind how much it seemed real and immediate, because when I was a kid, I thought that everything in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I thought that movie was beat for beat a true story. It was only later that I found out that it was loosely based on Ed Gein and all that. But anyway, Texas Chainsaw Massacre made a big impression on me as a kid the first time I saw it, because I thought it was real. It looked something that could happen like down the street from you or something. Well, the first time I saw Roadkill, and still to this day, the thing that amazes me about it is it has that look that's similar to Texas Chainsaw. You know, it has that really gritty, dirty, raw look. But then in addition to that, it has what Texas Chainsaw only implies. Roadkill, The Last Days of John Martin, has blood all over the place. Blood all over the walls. There are entrails everywhere. There are dead roadkill laying on a table. This guy is literally taking, bowls filled with internal organs and flesh and stuffing it in his mouth, and he's smearing blood all over the place. I mean, it looks so real and authentic. Just think about what makes such an impression to you the first time you see Texas Chainsaw Massacre, all right? And you see that great set design with all of the animal bones and all of that stuff strewn everywhere across this old farmhouse. In Roadkill, he's able to turn this house that he used as a set that I think he was living in at the time. If I remember correctly from the audio commentary, he was living in this place at the time, and he literally turned the inside of this place. It looks like a fucking slaughterhouse. So what Roadkill does is that it manages to combine the look of Texas Chainsaw, but then just put massive quantities of blood and guts on display, and it leaves no stone unturned. It is unflinching. Jim VanBebber is unflinching in his documentation of what this sick killer is doing in this movie. It pulls no punches at all. This guy goes out towards the conclusion of it, and he picks up this guy and his girlfriend, and then he takes them back to his house, and he ends up cutting the guy apart, chopping his hand off and nailing it to the wall, and then he chops his head off, and all the while he's got his girlfriend in this cage over an oven, and it is just sick, sordid stuff. And I gotta also point out, there's some good lighting and good shots in this short film as well. There's a scene that only lasts maybe 3 seconds in this movie of when John Martin is coming out. He's about to get ready to go and kidnap the guy and the girl, right? He's about to go commit murder. And before he does, though, he walks out of this room and he's standing in a hallway in his house, and there's just this red light. He's just bathed in this violent red light. And there's just something about that. To me, stuff like that's very effective, and it's only on screen for 2 or 3 seconds. But it's very effective. I love that use of lighting that Jim VanBebber does. He does that in his other stuff as well, like in Deadbeat at Dawn. There's some great lighting in Deadbeat at Dawn, especially scenes like when Bone Crusher, the two big bad guys in Deadbeat at Dawn, there's a scene where they're talking to each other, and there's like green light and red light, and that stuff does so much to heighten the atmosphere. But going back to Roadkill, the thing is, I would have loved to have seen Roadkill become a feature length. That would be an amazing thing. Like, can you imagine if that was like an hour and 20 minutes long? You know what I mean? And had more violent murders take place, and you got to... Because think about this. When you watch something like Deadbeat at Dawn, it has several notable set pieces. Remember when I was talking about a movie like Goodfellas that just has all this shit that happens when you're least expecting it? You're riveted the whole time, but then all of a sudden something ultra-violent happens, something really entertaining. Well, VanBebber does that in Deadbeat at Dawn, his feature-length debut. There is shit just thrown in there. You got people with their hands getting shot off, people with their throats getting torn off. You've got bodies getting thrown into trash compactors. You got people getting beat to death with golf clubs. There's all this super violent stuff that happens, and it just happens randomly. There's random occurrences. I don't want to spoil everything that happens in Deadbeat at Dawn, but it just never lets up, man. There's never a dull moment in Deadbeat at Dawn. Well, I can just imagine what Roadkill would have been like if it had been a feature-length film. Just as a short film, it makes such a powerful statement. It is really an effective piece. And I can just imagine in my mind what it would be like if it were an hour and a half, okay, or an hour and 15 minutes, just something stretched out where VanBebber could work more of his magic, could have more crazy shit go down. Who knows what he would have put in that film.
Mountaintop 9 will be right back after these messages.
During the next 10 minutes, you're invited to visit the refreshment stand, where you'll be greeted with fast, friendly service. You'll find hot dogs, juicy hamburgers, and mouth-watering delicious pizza. There are refreshing hot and cold beverages, ice-cold cola, and orange drink. Goes great with an order of crispy French fries. Then there's a wide selection of your favorite candies and other delicious snacks. And there's always a fresh batch of hot buttered popcorn to go with the rest of the show. So visit the refreshment stand now during this 10-minute intermission and add to your enjoyment of the movie. We're happy to have you with us tonight and hope you'll come back often.
You're moving it. Would you just quiet? I'm trying to concentrate here. And I'm not moving it. You're moving.
Welcome to the House of Tang, Enfield's unique Cantonese and Szechuan restaurant. Enjoy the atmosphere at the House of Tang while you sip an exotic cocktail. Tempt yourself with an appetizer or savor lunch and dinner specialties from Tang's ample menu.
I've heard of it.
Mischief. Sometimes it's the only way to get the girl of your dreams.
What I like about you is that you don't look dangerous, even though you are.
Tomorrow.
Ah!
Like a little dove, obscene blood, this is whisper time. On her knees she begins to cry. I guess I've laid it on the line.
And now, Showtime.
And then as far as Deadbeat at Dawn is concerned, the thing that hit me about it was I was getting all this rawness, just that look of a VanBebber film, but I'm getting the blood effects. Like I said, in Deadbeat at Dawn, you get plenty of blood on display. There's just blood flying everywhere in this movie, especially as you get towards the conclusion. But then it's integrated in this action movie plot, okay, about these rival gangs, and then the main character who's portrayed by Jim VanBebber, he plays a character named Goose in this movie, and anyway, he's the leader of the gang, the Ravens, and anyway, he wants to quit the gangs because his girlfriend wants him to quit the gangs. Well, anyway, the rival gang, they end up killing his girlfriend, and they kill her in a really brutal fashion too, beating her to death with clubs, and it's just a really brutal thing. And even though you don't see everything right on screen, just what's implied with her hands reaching up as they're stomping these clubs down on her, and just what's implied, it's really heart-wrenching, because VanBebber's able to establish this connection between the main character and this girl. He takes time to set up this whole love interest and the fact that these two are in love and they're going to start a life together and all that. So you do begin to care for this girl. So when this happens to her, it hits you. It's a gut punch. You feel bad. This girl's not only getting killed, but she's getting killed in a really brutal fashion as well. She's not going out quick by any means. So that really hits you there. And that's the thing, that what I'm saying about Jim's stuff is he doesn't do things in this real delicate way, man. He does things in a cruel, uncompromising way, in a way that's going to try to make you as the viewer flinch. Later on in Deadbeat at Dawn, the character Bone Crusher, he talks about when he was over her stomach. He has this scene where he's talking about when he was killing her, how he could see her intestines coming out and how they looked like little snakes. And that performance by the guy who played that character, I think his name is Mark Pittman, it's really good. He plays that guy really good. You're saying, give me some examples, Eric. Tell me what you're talking about when you say that Jim likes to throw in these crazy-ass, out-of-left-field scenes that just blow your mind, where you just look at them and you go, holy shit, what just happened? I can't believe what I just saw. I'll give you a good example. In Deadbeat at Dawn, there's this scene towards the very end when Goose is running through this drive-through store. You know, it's one of those stores, we have them a lot here in Ohio, where you drive through the fucking store and they sell, you know, beer and drinks and all this shit. And anyway, there's this scene where Goose, he's running through there, right? This dude's been doing kicks and jumping off of buildings and flips and everything else. All this crazy shit. And anyway, he's worked up a nice fucking thirst. So he goes over to this fridge and he gets out a Sprite, all right? And he's getting himself a nice refreshing drink. And the guy that works at the drive-thru, he's like, hey buddy, you gotta pay for that shit before you drink it. So, you know, get over here. Pay me my fucking money. Well, anyway, VanBebber goes running through there, right? And as he's trying to get out of this place, there's this dorky guy in a car with his old grandma. And anyway, this really straight-laced looking kid, he says to his grandma, Grandma, where's your gun? Give me your gun. And he takes his grandma's gun and he just starts firing off shots, ostensibly to shoot the Goose character, but he ends up killing the convenience store worker. This just blows your mind, because this guy just got his fucking life taken from him in a bloody shooting. And these characters that were just sitting here, just these regular law-abiding looking people, they don't even give a shit that happened. You see the grandma in the car going, shoot him through the head till he's dead, blow his, you know, she's like going off. And anyway, the first time you see that scene, you're like, holy shit. Can you believe this? Even the supposedly straight-laced characters in this movie full of anti-hero. Even Goose is an anti-hero in this movie. You know, he ain't your typical straight-laced fucking gallant action hero. okay? He's not like the hero that you would think. He's just a regular guy. And anyway, in Deadbeat at Dawn, when you see a scene like that where you got a grandma and her fucking grandson in the car, and they're just as bloodthirsty as the rest of the villains in this piece. So that's just a really cool thing. That's a good example of something just coming out of left field, just upping the entertainment value through the fucking roof. But yeah, just really violent, and Deadbeat Dawn is this nice combination of action martial arts, and then it's just got that horror Tom Savini blood just mixed in and integrated with it. So even if you're watching and you're coming at it more from I like Jim VanBebber's more horror side of the equation type stuff. Well, Deadbeat at Dawn is really cool because it has elements of that. There are elements, even though it is primarily an action type film, it's got elements of horror in there with the hyper violence, with all the blood, and there are surreal scenes like where Goose is having hallucinations of his girlfriend walking in a cemetery, and she's got just this bloody sheet over her. Stuff like that, and just really twisted visuals on display. VanBebber puts these very morbid shots in Deadbeat at Dawn. Hey, this is a Jim VanBebber production here. So yeah, you're getting the action, but you're going to get a morbid flair that's injected in there as well. Now, something else that's real noteworthy about this release from Arrow Video is that it has the Chunk Blower promo trailer that Jim VanBebber directed back in the day as well. And that was something that he was involved with Chaz Ballin for. And Chaz Ballin was this famous horror critic. I grew up reading Chaz Ballin's stuff. I loved his books like The Gore Score, More Gore Score, The Deep Red Horror Handbook. He wrote columns for Gore Zone magazine back in the day, okay? In the very early 90s, he wrote a column called Peace of Mind. And I'll tell you what, in one of those articles, he talks about Jim VanBebber. He writes about Jim VanBebber's work up to that time in one of his articles. And anyway, Chaz Ballin is just a legend. If you're into horror, then you know Chaz Ballin. There's no excuse for not knowing who the guy was. The guy's legendary as far as I'm concerned. And anyway, Jim VanBebber directed this promo trailer thing for a movie that never came to be. And man, I wish it would have been turned into a feature because it has a great look to it. Watch that Chunk Blower trailer. It's only like 3 minutes long, but I'm telling you guys, the lighting in it, the blood that's on display, it looks like it would have been a kick-ass movie. It really would have been good if it had come to fruition. And another short film Jim VanBebber did, and hopefully it'll end up being a feature-length film at some point, is Gator Green. He did a short film back in 2013 called Gator Green, and you know what? It's inspired, you can tell it's inspired by the true life story of Joe Ball, and it's kind of similar in nature to if you've ever seen Tobe Hooper's Eaten Alive. Well, it's got that same type of premise going on where you've got someone killing people and feeding them to alligators and whatnot. Even though in Eaten Alive, I think it's a crocodile, but whatever the case, it's the same kind of motif going on. And Gator Green is an entertaining piece, so I recommend you check that one out as well. But yeah, guys, there's other stuff. There's other stuff to watch on here. I didn't even talk about every single thing on this release, but I highly recommend. And you know, this thing's been out for a few years now. I'm just now getting around to talking about it. But if you're a fan of Jim VanBebber, then you already got this, guys. You know how cool it is, how good. I just love the look of his work, and just such a big fan. And so I just wanted to take a few minutes to highlight the stuff on here and kind of really focus in on the work that he did that made the biggest impression on me. Definitely, if you are new to Jim VanBebber and this is the first time you've ever heard about his stuff, check this release out, man. This is the one to get from Arrow Video. Get this, and also check out the Manson family as well, which I'll do a video on at some point as well. And anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll be seeing you again really, really soon.